if anybody doesn't know who I am, I'm Lefteris. I've been in the field since 2014. Worked with Christoph in the foundation, and then later with Slokit building the DAO and cleaning it up. Then I worked with Brainbot in Raiden, which was a Lightning network to Ethereum, basically. Didn't catch on, and I'm the founder of Rodkey. So managing crypto. Anybody who has not even been a heavy user of crypto, you basically end up like this guy here. Like, I have an overwhelming amount of information. Let's say that you just use 2 chains. Still, it becomes very, very difficult to manage your stuff. If you use 1, 2 exchanges, you end up having information that is very, very difficult to track. And what happens is that you, at some point, will want to see what you have and where. So there are tools that help you do that. The current state of the art is centralized tools, so centralized software as a service. What's the problem? That data can be sold or leaked. You do not own that data. The moment that like a hack happens or the company closes down, they cease to exist and you lose access. This is not fear-mongering. Like I use this quite often, and I'm sorry if Frederica is here. No, but I use it a lot. Companies close down, and when they are software as a service and they don't have any way to import or export your data, then you end up not being able to get it. A big problem with this is that there is no good solution. Like, for example, our solution, Rodkey, is neither like a perfect solution. But you need to do a lot of work. So you end up closed more and more in the solution that you work with. And then if they end up going out of business, you lose everything, if it's a centralized software as a service. If it's not, then you can just take it with you wherever you go. So they also tend to be closed source. What are the problems with closed source? The smaller would be that you don't get community help, so nobody can help you do more integrations, etc. But for something that tracks stuff or calculates things, you have no idea how it's calculated. You can't challenge it, and if you want it to do for accounting, then forget it. Like, you have no idea how it's calculated or if what you see is correct. You don't know if what the people are saying, okay, is it not leaking my data? Is it actually not tracking me? They may promise you, but you can't actually audit this. You can't check that this is true. So our dApps right now, most of them are unfortunately a centralized server architecture. We're just recreating Web 2 in Web 3. We call them dApps, but they're really, most of them are just an application on a server. You don't have privacy, you don't have control over your data. It's your dApp, but our data, right? Like, we actually own your data in most of these dApps. Everybody will tell me that they have privacy policies, so we have to trust them. The privacy policy says that they respect it. They respect your privacy. If you actually read the privacy policy in most of the services, you will see that they share a lot more data than you think. But we're in a place where we don't need trust, right? We are a don't trust but verify kind of world. So we should really remove the need for a privacy policy. And it's not just the privacy policy or basically someone being malicious that's the problem. Really, you should try to build applications that cannot be evil, cannot leak your data by mistake. Like, the biggest problems will happen if an intern or someone like accidentally opens the database to the public or accidentally shares your data. So this brings us to how can you do this with what we call self-sovereign applications. So what is a self-sovereign application? You just need to have ownership over the data. You need to be able to have a big say on how the data is handled and how it's shared, and you should be able to audit the code. So you can go and say, hey, this app doesn't do what you say Lefteris. Like, you're basically bullshitting us. And another thing, in order to achieve this, is that the software should be local first. local first is something that I'm really in love with, and it started being reintroduced to the world by someone called Martin Kleppmann, not Keppelman, even though it's actually really close as a name. So it's a set of principles that are quite simple. So this is the guy. You keep the majority of the functionality of the application local. The data should be stored locally, and privacy and security should be paramount. And the most important thing that many people misunderstand, it's not that you don't have data that goes to the network. We live in an interconnected world. What you should try to do is not have every single keystroke pass through a round trip to a server. And of course, open source. Everybody who knows me knows that I just talk about open source all the time. What is it good for? It has multiple advantages, let's say. Some are for the developers, some are for the users. So for the users, it's the transparency. Like you know what the app does. It doesn't mean that you need to read the code, but someone will. There is so many eyes that are looking at open source code, and if someone is bullshitting about what their app is doing, there is so many people who love to dunk on others, especially on Twitter, so they will find it and they will say that you're actually lying here. You can, as a developer, you can involve the community, so open source kind of binds users and developers. You do not have data capture or data lock-in because you can just take the data out, like see how it is handled, and then basically take it and go away if you don't like the app. And it encourages innovation because everybody can see how others are doing this, and you are by actually copyleft licenses like the one that we use, you are encouraged to share. So now for some concrete examples, fighting for sanity and privacy in crypto. The app that I'm the founder of is called Rotki. It's a portfolio tracker and management tool that has a very big focus on privacy. I will give a quick TLDR and then go about how we use Gnosis chain and how we can help you work with managing your Gnosis chain portfolio. So this is like the dashboard. It gives you a bird's eye view over your portfolio. You can see what you have in all of your exchanges, in any chain that you're connected, or have some balances that are input manually. And then you can see a historical graph of your portfolio. All the data is local. Everything is owned by you. There has been at least 5 by now different applications that are built on top. Some are add-ons that are like for Chrome. One other is for Etherscan to make Etherscan better readable by using the decoders that we have in Rotki, and so on and so forth. Yeah, and I should have pressed this button, I guess. Yeah. We also sort of trying to track traditional finance, but this is a bit of a manual process right now. So for example, for me, I track all of my stock portfolio, I have my banks, etc., but they are not automatically connected. They are manually edited. It's very customizable. It's not the most user-friendly tool. This is something that I have to admit, but it's probably the most powerful tool out there. So once you get to actually understand how it works and be able to use it, you basically make, it's a superpower. It helps you make money. This is the feedback that our heavy users have given us, that it's basically untied their hands. But it's not the most user-friendly one. We are a small team. We just got some designers, and we are trying to get more and more into understanding how we can take this tool and make it easier and more easy for users to use. So Gnosis chain. This is Gnosis chain meetup after all, right? What is it good for? So why do I like Gnosis chain? It has a cute old logo, right? It's a very, very, very beautiful logo. I like birds, so that for me had me sold from the very beginning. Yeah. We are in Europe, and we have this Monerium EUROE stablecoin that has become probably the most liquid stablecoin right now in crypto. It has the best liquidity. If you use Monerium, you will probably notice that the best liquidity is in Gnosis chain. It has ample DeFi opportunities. It has increased a lot in the past months. It wasn't like that before. That comes from someone who really uses DeFi a lot, so I can testify to that. And the fees, oh my God, the fees, hopefully this stays. It's like sub-cent fees are really, really great. Like with EIP 4 digits, I just don't remember the blob thing. I am not good at remembering the numbers. Okay, this one. With that EIP, like Arbitrum and Optimism and all the other rollups, they also got cheap, but we're still a magnitude cheaper in Gnosis because, like, let's say that mainnet is here, right? Then Optimism and Arbitrum and other rollups are here, and Gnosis chain is sub-cent fees here. Like, let's say I have 0.1x DAI in an account, and I use multiple protocols at least 2 times per day. This 0.1x DAI will last me for over a month, while one transaction right now in Optimism would be more than 0.1, or like 1 or 2 would be $0.1. So these are what's really good about Gnosis chain. Some examples for DeFi, like Monerium was mentioned. So this is how it looks like. Like you have your transactions, you can check them. You can move euro from the chain to the bank, and the chains are Gnosis, Polygon, and Mainnet, or euro from the bank to the chain. It has no fees for now, but with something like Rotkey, you can track all of the details. We see the transactions in Gnosis chain, like here, for example, and we overlay data from Monerium's API over the transaction, so you can actually see the IBAN transfer data while you're looking at the history of your transactions. Gnosis Pay, right? This is the same thing that Martin showed before. I have 0 because I don't have this automation. I actually move them manually. So I use something like Aave. When I want to go out, I take from Aave, put to the card. When I go back home, I take it out of the card and go put it back to Aave. Gnosis Pay basically is a self-sovereign bank, right? It uses the Gnosis safe. You can spend euro directly from the chain, from any kind of protocol, and into Lidl, right? Basically. It sort of works in Rotkey. It's not what I would have liked it, because if anybody's here from Gnosis Pay, please make an API, like really. This is how it looks like in Rotkey. Like you send from my safe to somewhere, right? Or receive. So you send or receive from a safe. But if we had an API, then you would be able, only you as the owner of the card, of course, you would be able to access the information, kind of overlay this information to the transaction itself, just like we do with Monerium. So this would be really, really, really cool. Other stuff that you can do, Sexy DAI. If anybody knows Savings DAI from MakerDAO, in Gnosis we also have Sexy DAI, which is basically the Savings DAI, but sexier. It just gives you an APY that is maybe, how much here? 16.726, so how much is DAI now? 12? 14. So it's a bit better, and that is because it also uses the DAI that is in the Gnosis chain bridge. And this is like trackable also in Rotkey like this. It looks like that it recognizes the transaction, that it's a deposit into the savings X DAI, so on and so forth. Aave was mentioned before. This is an easy protocol to use. So like this is probably the thing that you should use if you have a Gnosis Pay card. Just put stuff there. It's relatively safe. It's one of the oldest lending protocols. You can turn basically your on-chain Euro into a Tagesgeld konto. Like just have a small interest rate. It's, when I took this screenshot, it was 2.94. Right now it should be 1 point something. It just plays along with how much the demand for borrowing is. And it's also tracked perfectly in Rotkey for all chains, such as Gnosis. Then Curve. I don't know if anybody is Muslim here, but for example, if you're Muslim and pretty religious, you don't use lending protocols because it's haram. This is halal, so this is the good thing. Because it's just fees, and fees are okay. So if you want this, you can actually use something like Curve, which is also a very old protocol. It's relatively safe because it's Well, safety in smart contracts is basically how long has it gone without being hacked. So that's why I say safe. Please don't kill me if tomorrow Curve gets hacked. It has very good incentives in Gnosis safe. Gnosis chain, it's like 17.16 return in whatever you put there, and this is like a pool between very stable coins and euro. And you can also track it in Rotkey. Like you just put whatever you want. So basically, XDAI and euro, you put it in the pool, and then you get the pool token. Cow swap, of course. Like this is how you would exchange stuff in Gnosis chain. It's really cool. Gasless swaps. Even though who cares about gasless swaps in Gnosis chain? They're really useful in mainnet. But the very good thing is that all of the surplus of the trade that the solver finds goes to you and not to the to profit for the DEX itself. And this is also tracked in Rotkey. We actually got a grant for this from CowSwap, so we're very thankful. You can see it like perfectly with how much is the fee, how much like has been spent or received. Another protocol that you can use in DeFi is Balancer. So you can either swap here or you can use it for LPing. It has pretty good APR in Gnosis chain because it's also incentivized. You have multiple pools to choose from. If you have EuroE, you should probably put it in SDAI EuroE. And this is also tracked perfectly in Rotkey. But then you can do some extra step, and then things start to get more complicated because you're putting a protocol on top of a protocol. But there is also Aura, and it has a lot of liquidity in Gnosis chain. This is, if anybody knows Convex for Curve, this is what this is for Balancer. So you submit you LP in Balancer. You take the LP token and you put it in Aura, and then you can basically claim rewards every so often, which in Gnosis chain means whenever you want because it's basically free. And this is also tracked in Rotkey. You can just see all the rewards that you claim. The rewards are for almost all the pools. It's basically Balancer and Aura token, which you just tend to just swap out back to XDAI. Some strategies using the protocols that I just showed. You put EuroE and SDAI to the Aura pool, or you put EuroE WXDAI to the Curve pool. Basically, this is simple. You just do that. And then you do this circular claiming of the rewards from either or both the Curve pool and the Aura pool. And then you swap from CowSwap to XDAI and go back in. And then you just have a very good, simple, and very cheap strategy because you do not have any fees, basically. It's literally free to use the chain at the moment. So Rotkey is, as I said, most about tracking, but what do we want to do in the future? Like you do all these strategies, you look, you track, you have Rotkey open, then you open your DApp, you go to Curve, you do the transaction, then you go to the other one, you do the transaction. It becomes very, very, very difficult and very annoying. So something that I, as a very heavy user, and everybody else that I have talked to would want is active management of all this. So we want to slowly go towards active management of stuff from inside Rotkey. Like even the exchanges, say you want to sell 1 ETH for euro or for, well, let's say for euro. Rotkey can actually find the routes from inside the app itself because it's connected to Kraken, to Binance, to Coinbase. It can check the chain and it can see that compared to Kraken, Coinbase, the CowSwap, or Binance, Kraken is the best, and then you can go and execute. Also, using the Monerium API that I showed before, nothing stops you from actually making SEPA transfers from inside Rotkey. Literally, even now, it's a few lines of code because of the API of Monerium not being read-only. So actually, you can do that, but you need also the key. So the API just, along with the key of your address, would allow you to make SEPA transfers from inside the app. So this would be a way to connect TradFi and crypto with Rotkey. And others, which are a bit more expensive, which we would like to go for, would be automatic tracking of banks, automatic tracking of stocks. there are no free APIs for this. This would be expensive for us. We would need to make SLA agreements with some APIs, and that would not be inside the app. It would need to be running on a server. But this is also possible if we, well, get more funding and focus a bit on doing more traditional finance along with crypto. And of course, always more chains, more protocols. We have about 300 open issues in our GitHub. Performance and speed improvements, and yeah. So if anything that I said today sounds interesting to you, we are hiring. We're always hiring. Mostly Python development. But we may be also making a Rust daemon. So if you are inside, like a bit more backend and are into Rust and stuff and Web3, then please talk to me. We also welcome open source contributors. It's an open source project. This is how we actually find most of our employees in the end. If you make open source contributions, I basically DM you and tell you, please join the team. Use it daily, like literally use it daily, because we have a snapshot functionality, and this is how the historical stuff are shown. And I moved the QR over the spread the word, because I made the stuff very fast, like a few hours before. But yeah, spread the word about Rotki. The QR has all our links, and it's also here. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We have time for one question.
Thanks for that. So you mentioned that Rotki is local first. And I saw some of your tweets that claimed like there was some issue with fetching NFT data from like outside servers. How local is it actually? Can I do everything locally?
Well, you need to get the data from somewhere. So the data, your data is kept locally. But even if you run an on-chain, like a node, you will still need data from somewhere, because the node cannot serve you everything. This is unfortunately something that I have opened eyes for everybody of our users, because everybody thought I run my local node, I can find everything. This is unfortunately not possible. You need external indexers. The most you could do is maybe run something like TrueBlocks together with an archive node, but still you would need stuff that you need external indexers for. And the way that the protocol is going, this is becoming a lot worse. We will need external indexers for almost everything. Like the protocol is going towards not being able to run your own node for historical data. It's trying to go towards running the node in order to stay in the tip as fast as possible so that you can stake, but not for serving historical data, unfortunately.
Okay. Thank you so much for your presentation. Please give a round of applause to Lefteris. And if someone else has more questions, please reach out
I will be here.
to Lefteris.